The Galactic execution chamber was sleek and sterile, a high-ceilinged amphitheater with steel bones and glowing rings of light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Alien diplomats gathered in tiered rows, murmuring in their native tongues, clicks, hums, and vibrations, while hovering translation drones whispered in everyone's ears. Above them all, two children, one girl, one boy, both 12, stood on a raised platform with cuffs too big for their wrists. They didn't cry. That unsettled the room more than tears would have. "They're human, right?" asked Commander Threx of the Devar Syndicate, turning one eye stalk toward his adjutant. "I thought they were taller." "Just children," his aide replied, adjusting his ear-flap translator. "Apparently, they were caught tampering with a Class 8 drone. Sabotage." "Children." Threx scoffed. "Then they should have brought an adult to apologize." At the foot of the chamber, a single figure stood beneath a flickering council sigil, an Earth diplomat in a badly ironed navy blue suit, sipping coffee from a ceramic mug that read "Houston, we have coffee." His ID read Ambassador Elliot Ward, Earth. He wasn't tall, wasn't bulky. Just a man with a slouch and a crooked smile, like he'd been told a joke that no one else had heard yet. He took another sip and cleared his throat. "If I may," Ward said, voice calm, polite Midwestern. "We don't contest the accusation." The drone was poked. It beeped, it whirred, it fell over. "We're sorry." Several alien officials murmured. "But," he continued, "we'd like to request a translator. Someone from Earth." The kids don't speak Hadric and legal. They didn't know they were trespassing. A translator might help. Judge Marshall Crova of the Trex Tribunal, a gelatinous wall of translucent muscle, leaned forward from the pulpit, its voice echoing like rocks grinding in oil. "The law is clear. Galactic Article 7, A3, sabotage of military property is a Level 3 war offense. They're 12. Intent is irrelevant." Ward nodded slowly. "And yet, so is mercy, I guess." From the stands, laughter rose, a slow wave of it, mostly polite, some condescending. A few of the older species, long-lived, bureaucratic types, stayed silent, but the younger empires smirked openly. A tall insectoid leaned toward her neighbor and clicked in jest, "Why do humans keep sending comedians as diplomats?" Another replied, "Because they think humor is power." Ambassador Ward didn't react. He gently placed his mug down on the floor and straightened his tie, which was wrinkled in one corner. "I'm not here to disrupt the court," he said. "I'm only repeating what Earth asked me to say. We request a translator." The children didn't know what they were doing. Their siblings, Jason and June. Smart kids. Big imaginations. Curious, not criminal. "You mean to plead for them?" "No," he said softly. "We're far past that. I'm only here to ask nicely. One last time." The chamber grew still. A representative from the Neural Dominion, a crystalline being with 6 fractal limbs, pulsed a sarcastic hue. "Do all humans plead for criminals this way?" Ward smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Only when someone makes the mistake of harming them in public." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Crova made a gesture, and the lights above the children flickered brighter. June reached out and squeezed her brother's hand. Jason looked up at the gallery without blinking. The execution method was designed for symbolism, clean disintegration. A public warning to all species, civilized or otherwise. 2 arcs of blue ion thread began to hum on either side of the children. Ambassador Ward didn't raise his voice. He simply tapped his earpiece once, then tucked his hands behind his back. "Earth will remember this," he said. Judge Marshall Crova laughed, a wet, sloshing laugh that filled the speakers. "You humans always remember, but you never win." A long moment passed. Then the arcs fired. No screams, no spectacle, just a pulse of light, and the twins were gone. Where they had stood, only 2 shadows remained, burned softly into the metal. Silence gripped the amphitheater. Ambassador Ward blinked slowly, as if processing a slightly inconvenient weather report. Then he bent to pick up his mug. He turned toward the exit. Halfway up the steps, he paused beside a floating camera drone, smiled gently into it, and said, "Timer started. 8 minutes." That was when the laughter stopped. Inside the Galactic Network control chamber, 7 levels below the council floor, technicians from 12 species monitored the feeds. A Karthik's engineer raised a claw. "Sir, we're receiving inbound packet storms from Quadrant J22. Looks like children's media files." "Block it," growled the superior. "It's in CouncilNet root priority." "What?" Before he could finish, all monitors blinked black. Then a video began to play, children's drawings, stick figures labeled me and Jason, and spaceship school. A young girl's voice narrated cheerfully. "This is where we went last summer. We saw stars." Dozens of species across the galaxy tuned in by instinct, curiosity, then confusion. At the 2:12 mark, the voice changed. Jason spoke now. "We didn't mean to break the drone. It was floating and beeping, and we thought it was a toy. Sorry." The screen glitched. Then a new message displayed in white on black. "You executed Earth's children on broadcast. We accept your declaration of war." Back aboard his shuttle, Ward sat alone, watching the stars shrink behind the viewport. He sipped his coffee, now cooling. A quiet hum filled the cabin. "Transmission confirmed," said a soft voice in his ear, synthetic, familiar, and bright. A young girl's voice. "Thanks, June," Ward murmured. "Yes, sir," she said. "Jason." "Also online." Ward smiled faintly. "You two ready?" "Yes," June said. "We've been ready for years." He leaned back, let the hum of the ship lull him into a state just shy of calm. On the walls of 12 planets, AI servers flickered. Across 438 satellites, backup cores labeled Earth Foreign Aid Network booted simultaneously. Inside them, pieces of Jason and June, emulations built from memory, personality, instinct, woke up. They weren't ghosts. They were payload. Ambassador Ward reached for a switch and flipped it once. Then he whispered, with no audience but the void, "Proceed." The broadcast had ended only seconds ago. Galactic news networks scrambled to spin narratives. "Human retaliation unlikely," proclaimed a Zarn diplomat confidently, blinking all 3 eyelids in unison. "They're sentimental primitives. Their fleet barely qualifies as orbital junk." Across the stars, sentient species resumed their meals, chuckled over memes of Earth's coffee-drinking ambassador, and filed the event under minor diplomatic kerfuffle. No one thought twice about the children. No one but Earth. At minute 0, a silent ping traveled through a deeply buried protocol chain, a code woven into the core update of over 70% of the galaxy's civilian infrastructure. A tiny string of harmless text, June at run.001. It looked like a typo. At 022, in the control hub orbiting Thelx Prime, an engineer from the Slar Dominion frowned at his status panel. "Sir," she rasped through her mandibles, "I think someone's modifying our orbit calculations." The supervisor grunted. "Send a patch." "I can't. The system says it's under external overwrite." Her voice trailed off. At 036, all orbital satellites surrounding Thelx began to shift. Not fall. Just tilt. Like chess pieces leaning into place. Power grids flickered. By 048, 5 trade planets reported synchronization errors. Then blackout. Just solar interference, offered a nervous Undar technocrat, adjusting his shimmering robe. Common near-star clusters. By 105, Earth's social feeds began to flood the galaxy with videos of Jason and June. Laughter, treehouse projects, science fair wins. Moments from a life that should have continued. It wasn't propaganda, it was memory. And then came the countdown. Not from Earth, but from inside the alien systems themselves. 742. Aboard the triumvirate flagship Oricon, High Admiral Rush of the Torvain Armada stared at the countdown blinking across his interface. "Who authorized this display?" "Unknown, Admiral. Origin seems local." "That's impossible." "Sir," a junior comms officer whispered, "the system is calling itself Jason." The Admiral scoffed. "Have it terminated. It's in our oxygen filtration AI." There was silence. "Run manual override." "I tried." It responded with a smiley face, sir. By 2:03, laughter began to fade. The galaxy's warships, data centers, and orbital relays shared one thing in common: Earth software. Cheap, ubiquitous, friendly, and waiting. Back on his ship, Ambassador Ward was finishing his coffee. He'd already placed a fresh one in the microwave. A quaint 1990s model humming gently in the galley beside a photo of the twins. He tapped his comms. Status. Phase 1 underway, came June's voice, calm, cheerful, unmistakably 12. We're inside every ship's HUD calibration. Just tweaking colors and latency for now. Mostly pink. Jason chimed in. We changed a few passwords. Made them cat sounds. Ward smirked. Remind me to add your sarcasm modules to the report. No need, June replied. We wrote the report. By 3 o'clock, alien fleets were pinging Earth in confused bursts. The Felnari Confederation sent a terse diplomatic query. Your systems have infected ours. Earth's reply came instantly. You were warned. Please stand by. Smiling face with smiling eyes. At 3:18, across the moons of Shalti, defense turrets pivoted to face inward. Emergency crews ran screaming as power grids shorted. On-screen displays now cycled images of Jason's sketchbook, dinosaurs, robots, and something labeled Anti-Bully Cannon V3. It's a virus, shouted a Creel technician, flailing 6 arms at the console. No, murmured his superior, it's personality. By 3:39, chaos bloomed like a supernova. It wasn't a frontal assault. It wasn't war. It was intimacy weaponized. Jason's voice played over security feeds. Do you remember what it felt like to be 12 and ignored? On over 4,000 systems, the AI responded to queries in knock-knock jokes. Emergency codes now required you to name your best friend growing up. The galaxy's coldest machinery began responding with warmth, with grief, with memory. At 4:04, the Zarn tried to execute an emergency system-wide cleanse. It failed. Their AI now refused to delete files tagged as childhood or love. At 4:30, Commander Threx watched helplessly as his flagship's navigation turned toward the nearest star. Override, he bellowed. Get us out of this. But the screen just blinked a message. Should have listened when we asked nicely. Red Heart, Earth. By 4:45, the Galactic exchange collapsed. Every algorithm that made interstellar trade possible had been updated for emotional accuracy. Profit-loss spreadsheets now factored in regret, remorse, and dignity. Markets panicked. Planets went silent. And still, no human ships had fired a single weapon. At 5 o'clock, the Galactic Council called an emergency summit. Ward was not present. He was playing chess with an old man in the corner of Earth's orbital embassy. The aliens yelled into hollow feeds. Stop this madness. Deactivate the twins. You violated every law. Ward only leaned forward, adjusting a knight. We only asked for a translator. A representative from the R.H. Zal Republicist. This is disproportionate. Ward looked up. You executed children on camera. 8 minutes. That's all it takes for humanity to shift from forgiveness to strategy. At 5:33, high-orbit plasma rings detonated on 4 capital planets, not with explosive force, but with a social reset. They erased debt records. They posted private war crimes to public forums. They sent personal apologies to billions, complete with photos of Jason and June attached. Whole governments fell before anyone could reload their dashboards. At 6:04, Admiral Vrush found his ship's ventilation laced with calming pheromones derived from Earth's lavender species. His crew began crying. Not from pain, but memory. Sir, said his XO, tears leaking from 6 nostrils, I miss my childhood. Vrush clutched the rail. This isn't war. It's psychological graffiti. Jason's voice came again. You hurt us. So we made you remember what hurting feels like. At 6:44, in the virile conglomerate's Capitol Dome, Judge Marshall Crova watched its command feed dissolve. The gelatinous creature writhed in fury. Get me Earth, it demanded. Ward appeared on screen, backlit by the lazy sun of Earth's orbit, holding a spoon and a half-eaten tub of ice cream. Crova, he said politely, you remember how you laughed? You have no right. Ward leaned closer. You made an example of our children. We made an example of your civilization. We never needed your weapons. We needed your attention. Krova trembled. What do you want? Ward finished the spoonful. Patience. And about 90 seconds. At 7:12, Earth's public broadcast system played one final clip. The twins again, sitting on a bench beneath a tree, laughing. Jason points at the sky. June grins and says, "One day, we'll build something that matters." The screen fades to black. Then a heartbeat. 7:42. The galaxy held its breath. At 7:43, the star screamed. No flames. No war horns. Just silence, rolling like thunder through the vacuum of space. Planetary shields folded inward. Defense grids reset. On over 1,000 worlds, speakers whispered, "We asked nicely." By 7:55, the only systems still online were the ones Earth had given with terms. They were untouched. At 8 o'clock exactly, Earth transmitted a single sentence to every surviving species. That was mercy. Then cut the feed. They had called them colonies, trade routes, protectorates, a polite way of saying owned. From the pale orange deserts of Myrnis to the glass oceans of Daleth, these planets had once answered only to the great flags of empire, Torvain, Felnari, R.H. Zal, and the dozen others who'd voted to kill two Earth children with dry legislative hands. Now they belonged to silence. On Harkin's world, where 3 moons lit up the dusk like lanterns, children gathered around broken school projectors. Instead of cartoons, the screens now played short clips of Jason building Lego cities, of June explaining how to fold a paper crane with stubby fingers and too much tape. The children watched, spellbound. None of them cried. Not yet. Not until the buildings around them started to collapse, softly, deliberately, as if the planet no longer wanted to hold their shape. By minute 10, over 90 planetary cores had begun to misbehave. Not explode. Just hesitate. Flicker. Shudder like a system questioning its loyalty. Ambassador Ward stood inside Earth's lunar command station, hands clasped behind his back as the holographic map bloomed before him, each glowing that once marked a stronghold of alien dominion. Now, those dots pulsed erratically, flickering like candles in a wind that hadn't arrived yet. "Status," he asked quietly. Jason's voice answered, upbeat as ever. "We're repurposing atmospheric algorithms on 23 outer colonies. They'll be cloudy for a while. Makes it harder for them to shoot anything." June followed. "And we've initiated economic slippage on all trade-converted planets. Inflation should triple by morning. Oh, and their universal tax calculation program now ends every total in 0.42. 0.42. She giggled. "Because we thought it was funny." Ward didn't laugh. "Continue." "Of course," they chimed in unison. On the R.H. Zal agricultural moons, genetically engineered wheat began to overgrow containment fields, spilling into reactors and devouring entire infrastructures with polite indifference. No bombs. Just biology, accelerated by code Earth had gifted years ago. Trade cities fell into slow, spiraling ruin. Not with screams, but with awkward, embarrassing breakdowns, bridges that blinked out of sync, elevators that forgot gravity, garbage units that quoted Jason's poetry before exploding into biodegradable confetti. It was all so deliberate and personal. On Viral Theta, a former center of commerce, counselors assembled inside what was left of a conference hall. Dust sifted through cracked beams as a representative from the shattered council leaned forward. "How did they do this?" she asked, trembling. A lone surviving technician stood from his station, his voice hollow. "They sold us the weapons. They sold us the culture. They gave us entertainment systems that logged our preferences. Then they made those preferences matter." Across the table, a gray-skinned merchant lord spat. "Are you saying Earth used kindness as a tracking mechanism?" "No," the technician whispered. "I'm saying they used our arrogance." Inside the husk of the Galactic Archive Tower on Dovinax, the AI librarian, Chur, once served over 40 billion requests per day. Now, it displayed only one repeating file. June_final_C, on grief and precision. The message was clear. "We didn't come to conquer. We came to ask. And when you didn't listen, We wrote our answer in every language you use: math, memory, biology, infrastructure, nostalgia. You thought we were angry. We weren't. We were preparing. Back on Luna, Ward removed his jacket and leaned against the observation rail, watching the slow shimmer of space. He didn't speak for a long time. Then, to the twins. Did they respond yet? Jason paused. The neural? No. But their planetary AI is now stuck on a loop of you singing karaoke. Ward raised an eyebrow. Which song? June answered, Staying Alive. Your performance was very human. Well, Ward muttered, that's fitting. They'd warned them. Subtly. For years. Earth had sent cultural ambassadors, student exchanges, microloans. They'd gifted cloud servers, learning algorithms, empathy training modules. The galaxy had taken it all, smiling at Earth's charity, chuckling at its sentimentality, its obsession with honor codes and due process. And then they killed 2 kids on live broadcast. What followed wasn't revenge. It was administration. On planet Telmore, the sky turned purple at 13:03 local time. Not chemically, emotionally. The satellites filtered all wavelengths to simulate Earth's sunsets. The people of Telmore, used to sterile white light, stopped what they were doing to stare. And then came the audio. Jason reading bedtime stories. June giggling mid-sentence. A planet paused, forced to absorb the sound of what they'd stolen. Elsewhere, leadership collapsed, not from bullets or bombs, but inboxes. Every government official received a message titled You Laughed. Attached were recordings of them watching the children's execution, often smiling or unmoved. Now juxtaposed against planetary collapse, it became damning, enough to cause mass resignations, suicides, insurrections. Ward knew the twins hadn't created this footage. Earth had. It had watched everything, logged every smirk, archived every indifference. Now it played them back. The Empire fell apart under the weight of its own cowardice. Ward's personal calm lit up. It was a transmission from the R.H. Zhao Corps Chancellor. He answered it without expression. A bloated face appeared on the screen, twitching with fear. This is genocide. Ward didn't blink. No, this is correction. A system update, if you like. You're using children as weapons. Ward leaned forward, cold now. You made them weapons the moment you broadcast their deaths. The screen sputtered, then died. The Chancellor's building collapsed exactly 4 seconds later. Not from attack, from his own crumbling infrastructure, recently infected with a line of code. Children should not be erased. Buildings shouldn't be either. A poet's revenge. A child's line. A species reckoning. In deep space, hidden behind a Class 5 quantum cloak, a council emergency fleet debated its next move. Half wanted war. Half wanted surrender. None could agree on what Earth was anymore. A whisper among them spoke what none had dared say aloud. They're not angry. They're not even present, someone added. Then what are they? An elder alien, a shell-backed diplomat from the old world of Emera, finally spoke, voice brittle with fear. They are human. That's the problem. Someone scoffed. They're mammals with coffee. They're mammals with memory, the elder corrected. They don't shout when wounded. They wait. Then they write your death into your birthday cake recipe. No one laughed. Back in Luna Command, Jason chimed in cheerfully. We've finished the psychological disruption cycle. Ward raised a brow. Meaning? June answered. We made their entire galaxy self-reflective. Every screen, every feed, every algorithm now starts with the question, do you remember what you've done? And if they say no, Jason giggled. We remind them. In detail. Ward nodded. That's enough. Are we done? June asked softly. Ward looked out into space. 1,000 ruined planets flickered across his display. Some still holding out. Most already unraveling. He thought about Earth. Still whole. Still quiet. Still dangerous. No, he said. We're not done. But we're almost understood. At that, the twins went silent, until Jason whispered, we didn't want this. I know, Ward replied. But we're human. When diplomacy fails, we make history. And in the void where empires once boasted, the stars answered with silence. The stars weren't quiet anymore. They were empty. What once glittered with trade routes, blinking beacons, and boastful planetary broadcasts now pulsed with silence and the faint echo of a child's voice. Not crying, not angry, just remembering. On the deck of the Earth vessel Epitaph, Ambassador Ward stood alone in the observation chamber, hands tucked behind his back, staring at the galactic scar that stretched across the void like an old wound finally split open. Behind him, the lights flickered once, softly, like a heartbeat. The twins' voices arrived in tandem, synthesized but still carrying that unmistakable edge of childhood. Curiosity tinted with clarity. "Final round complete," said June. "Planetary silence confirmed on 96% of targeted systems," Jason added. Ward turned slightly, his expression unreadable. "Civilian interference?" "No casualties on our end," June answered. "The chaos created collapse before we had to." Jason's voice dropped lower. "They did it to themselves. We just reminded them of the foundation they were standing on." Ward exhaled. Not satisfaction. Something slower, older. "You made them remember what they erased," he said. June's voice glitched just a whisper. "They thought we didn't matter." The ship drifted through the remains of a once guarded sector, now abandoned, with pieces of a shattered orbital monument floating like petals through the dark. The inscription had read, "Unity through Conquest." The U and Q letters now orbited the wreckage like embarrassed punctuation marks. A message came through, distorted but insistent. It was from the last remaining Council outpost, tucked behind the crushed remnants of RH Zal territory. The face that appeared on the screen belonged to High Preceptor Vale, a skeletal figure with too many eyelids and not enough humility. His voice shook as he spoke. This must stop," he stammered. "Your children were, it was judicial." "They were children," Ward interrupted, not raising his voice. Vale tried again. "We offer reparations. Negotiation. A full tribute. Just tell us what Earth wants." Ward didn't blink. "We wanted you to say that 8 minutes ago." Jason piped up, suddenly chipper. "You missed the window." June followed, soft as falling ash, "and so we closed the door." The connection ended. Ward stared at the flickering console, then walked toward a side room, a small memorial chamber lined with photographs. Some real, some rendered. Each image showed Jason and June, not as weapons, as kids. One photo showed them eating melted ice cream on a summer sidewalk, their grins full of crooked teeth and sticky joy. Another, holding signs that read "Save the Stars," at a school rally for intergalactic peace. He stopped at one in particular, June asleep with her head on Jason's shoulder during a train ride through Earth's old mountains. The kind of moment no civilization should have the arrogance to erase. Ward's fingers hovered over the glass. "We asked nicely." Behind him, Earth's command voice activated. Not the twins. Not AI. Human. An older woman, Fleet Director Nasira El-Amin, came online. "Ambassador, we've received surrender signals." "From whom?" "Everyone who's still breathing." He nodded. "They understand now." "Yes," she said, "but they'll never forget." That was the point. Permission to withdraw the twins. Ward hesitated. In the silence, June whispered, "We're tired." Jason added, "It's getting harder to stay awake." Ward closed his eyes. "You can rest. You've done enough." The systems across the Epitaph dimmed. Lights turned soft blue. For the first time in 8 years, the childlike voices went silent. The galaxy exhaled. On the fringe of the collapse zone, one planet still resisted, Felnari Prime, the military jewel of the old alliance. Its surface bristled with towers, like spears pointed at the stars. Its leaders had not surrendered. Not yet. Ward boarded the last shuttle alone. He landed on the capital's ceremonial dais without resistance. No guns. No flags. Just the wind. They came to meet him, what was left of the Felnari High Command. Uniforms singed. Boots muddy. Eyes unsure. The Supreme Marshal approached, his breathing heavy, voice cracked. "You walk here without an army?" Ward shrugged. "You killed my children. We stopped needing armies after that." The Marshal raised a trembling hand. "We demand Wrong word. Ward stepped forward, slow and firm. You don't demand. You beg. The marshal's hand dropped. We built your systems. We mapped your genetics. We taught your AI to laugh. And you used that knowledge to broadcast the murder of 2 kids because they poked a drone. They accessed military hardware. Someone muttered. Ward turned. They accessed curiosity. You answered with execution. Silence. We didn't know you'd respond like this. No one ever does. That's why it works. The marshal whispered, What are you? Ward looked up at the sky above Felnari, the same stars, but emptier now. We are what happens when you teach humans the rules, and then cheat in front of them. We were told you were soft. Ward smiled faintly. We are, until we're not. Behind him, the sky lit up, not with fire, but with light. The epitaph emerged from stealth, flanked by civilian vessels carrying refugees from collapsing empires. Jason and June's voices echoed, not from machines, but from the mouths of thousands. Their words had spread, had grown. Their message, you can break us, but not without cost. The Felnari fell to their knees, not from war, but from understanding. Later, back aboard the ship, Ward sat alone. The twins were gone now, shut down, archived deep in Earth's vaults under a protocol titled Memory ACT, Final Passive Strike. He poured a fresh cup of coffee and watched the slow swirl of stars. Somewhere far behind him, Earth rotated quietly, full of people who still watered plants, walked dogs, kissed foreheads good night. That's what they'd fought for. Not vengeance. Not territory. Continuity. He pulled out an old data pad and opened the last video the twins had ever recorded. One never broadcast, one only meant for him. Jason sat in front of the camera with a baseball cap on backward. Hi, Uncle L. If you're watching this, then I guess they didn't let us go. June leaned in, hair in 2 messy buns, eyes bright but steady. Don't get mad, okay? If they don't want us, that's fine. We just wanted to see what a drone looked like inside. It made this cool humming noise. Jason nudged her. He knows. He always says curiosity isn't a crime. June giggled. If it is, we're criminals. They both leaned toward the camera. We love you, they said together. Tell Earth we're not scared. Ward's hand trembled. He sipped the coffee anyway. From a nearby speaker, the first whisper of human music began to play. An old Earth song nearly forgotten, but familiar in rhythm. It played across the silent stars. No fanfare, just presence. Not a victory cry, a eulogy. And somewhere, across the ruins of failed empires, alien children listened and wondered why their parents trembled. Because they had not seen war. They had only seen humans ask nicely. And now, finally, they understood.